Hi, I'm Alnisa and welcome to my garden. So I am so excited to have finally completed a much needed garden renovation project, which was laying gravel in my garden area. My first year of gardening, well really my second year of gardening, when I started using raised beds, everything was fine, the grass was green and growing great. Year 3, same thing, but I did see some issues with the grass not growing back in certain areas, and I just attributed that to the heavy traffic from me walking around doing gardening. But really later on in the year, I realized that I had some drainage issues, which was causing the grass not to grow back, in addition to the high traffic. So what I was getting was a lot of muddy messes, a lot of patchiness that was just not really appealing aesthetically and was kind of bringing down the whole look of the garden to me. I was apprehensive about putting all this gravel down. It's pretty much half my yard and it's a big commitment. So it took me some time to really make that commitment and decide to do this project. But after seeing over winter this year how bad this side of the yard looked, I mean, zero grass was to be seen. Not even weeds was growing over here. And the amount of mud and mess that was happening when we would come over here just to do some garden cleanup. In addition, everything looked just really shabby. I decided to just pull the trigger and go for it. This isn't the first time that I've made a big move in the garden. When I added this arch and kind of took over half this yard, that was also a big decision. So I just went with it and did my research and decided, you know what, it's the best option and the best thing to do. And I'm telling you that it was the best decision. I had my husband's help, and I definitely think it'd be beneficial to have someone help you. But is it possible to do on your own? It is. It would take longer, but I think having some help would make things just that much easier. And things like laying down the landscape fabric and needing 2 people for that, and then lifting all that heavy rock. If you're like us, we had to get ours delivered to the front yard and then kind of haul it to the backyard. So depending on what that looks like for you, it's possible to do this with one person, but definitely I would incorporate some help. The best thing about this project was that it was something that could be accomplished in one day. Now, it took us 2 days, but that's only because we kind of like to dilly-dally. That morning, we were like laying in bed and we ate breakfast and we went and ran errands, ate lunch, and then got started at like midday. But if we started in the morning like a real worker, like a real farmer, we could have definitely accomplished this in one full day. So if you want to be more proactive than we were, you can definitely accomplish this in one day. Okay, so let's get into the video. I'm going to show you exactly again how we did this, the products we used, and at the end I'll go over any issues that we had and total cost and any recommendations I may have if you decide to take on this project. So we headed to Home Depot to pick up some supplies. In the garden center is where you'll find the edging products. They have lots of different options, including this no dig, which we did end up using for the back part of the fence, but for the front we used something else. Now they had the steel version, which looked heavy duty but also complicated to use, so I chose to use the composite edging, which does have to be dug into the ground, but it's more pliable because it's like a plastic rather than steel. Then you have to get some landscape fabric. If you are laying rocks, I highly recommend getting the heavy duty because it is less likely to tear. The other versions are softer and more like fabric. And then lastly, we got some landscape staples, which I should have gotten 2 bags, but I only got 1 and we were a little short. And then we headed home to do some cleanup. So let's talk about gravel. I ordered this tan colored pea gravel. It's a small rounded stone, and I picked it because of the color and I liked the way it looked. I also heavily weighed my decision on that gravel. The pea gravel is a rounded stone, and my daughter and sometimes I like to come out here barefoot, and it's more forgiving on the foot if we do happen to come out here barefoot, especially her, because sometimes she just runs out here. So that was heavy on my decision making. That might not be of importance to you. The other option was a crushed granite, and those stones are more angular, so that wasn't going to work for me, a little more sharp. But from what I've read and from what I've asked from other gardeners who put gravel in their garden, it's a better kind of sturdy walking surface. So, you know, with these rounded stones, they kind of roll, and so your foot kind of rolls, and not everyone likes that. I haven't had an issue with it so far. It doesn't bother me. But if it's something that you think might bother you with your knees or something with your hips or your, you know, with the way you walk, you might want to consider that. But the crushed granite, which was another option, is I was weighing between the two, is a sturdier step. Something else to consider when you're deciding the amount of gravel that you need for your space. In addition to the square footage, you want to make sure you have at least 2 inches of depth. You want that because it'll start spreading thin. You'll start seeing whatever's underneath the fabric, or if you put this right on your dirt, which I wouldn't recommend because of the weeds, but you don't want that. It's going to look spotty and could start looking shabby really easily. So the 2 inches is a good amount where you're getting a good step and you're getting good coverage. And I think in some areas we have a little bit more than 2 inches. So always better to get a little bit more than to have not enough and then have to go out and get more in the middle of your project. That's something I really wanted to avoid. So is there anything I would do different? No. I actually loved how everything turned out. There are very few issues that we had. Everything kind of went smoothly. I was very proud of the fact that I ordered the correct amount of gravel. So that's going to probably be your biggest issue, is selecting the right amount of gravel. And typically someone will tell you to measure your yard and get the square footage. The issue with that is if you're doing a project like this after you already have your beds and your containers and all your obstructions already in the way, that's not really a true an accurate number for how much gravel you need, because a lot of your square footage is being taken up by those beds and obstructions. So I'm sure there's an equation where you can maybe measure everything and subtract it, or I'm not a mathematician, so I can't help you there. So I kind of just took that main number. I did do the length and width and got my square footage, and then I just guesstimated based on how much stuff I had, how much gravel I would need. I just happened to get it right. You definitely, though, want to make sure you are understanding the size of your area, because while I got those large square cubic foot bags of gravel delivered, you might not need that. Depending on your size, you might be better off getting the bags of gravel. It's really what's best and most cost effective for you. So I also added stone pavers to the center walkway of my garden in between the two center beds, and the addition was for aesthetics and for that option for a nice sturdy step. I mentioned earlier how the pea gravel kind of has a rolling step, and if that's a concern for you, the pavers are a great option because it gives you something hard surface to stand on. And you can add them all around, and didn't really take a lot of work to get those into the ground. As you saw, I didn't do anything really super professional. I just laid it on top of the landscape fabric and made sure to mound all of the stones around and kind of nestled that in there, and they're in great shape and they haven't moved. And I can assure you they've been tested. My daughter has been hopping on them, hopscotching or leapfrogging as she calls it, and they haven't budged. So that's another great option if you are looking to use the pea gravel and worried about that step, or if you even use the crushed granite, you can use the same. My favorite part was that the pavers were very inexpensive. I got them from Home Depot. These were the 12 by 12, and they were only about $1.75 each. I'll double check that and put it on the screen, but very affordable. I got 6 for this walkway, and I'm considering adding more. And again, you can play with those sizes. This is 12 by 12. I believe they had a size up, and again, those other rustic looking broken piece stones. Okay, so let's talk cost. The total for this project was about $570. That's rounded up. To break it down, I got 2 super sacks, as the company called them, of the tan pea gravel. They were $154 a piece, and they equated to 1 cubic yard per bag. Shipping or the delivery charge was $89, and then plus tax came out to about $397.96, I believe. Then the landscape fabric was about $84. The edging that we purchased was $35, and then I got a no-dig edging that was $25, and that was for the back fence area. And then a very important piece are those landscape fabric staples that you need to kind of anchor the fabric onto the ground. And one bag was about just shy of $16. It was like $15.98. However, I needed more, so I recommend getting 2 of those. The pavers were $1.75 a piece. Again, I'm going to correct myself if I'm wrong, and I'll put that on the screen. And I got 6 of those. So again, the whole project came out to just shy of $600, which I think is a pretty good cost given how big of an impact it's made to this garden area and how much it's going to improve my time out here in the garden. We had a big rain the other day, and I came out here to inspect kind of how the drainage was, and it was perfect. The water was kind of sinking down to the bottom of the level of the gravel, so there was really no puddling or pooling. So if I wanted to, in theory, because a lot of times people like to garden right after a rain or right before a rain or during, and I would be able to do that without making much of a mess and being able to accomplish what I want, or at least coming out here to garden after a big rain if I wanted to without worrying about the mud. I really like things to look pretty, and I think it just really overall elevated the look of the garden, and I love coming out here and just staring at it. I'm just obsessed. You can ask my family. I'm out here constantly looking at what a great job. Big thank you to my husband who did a lot of the heavy lifting. He hauled basically all the rocks out here. My sons did help some. They helped a lot the first day, but the second day my husband did everything by himself. And even Aria, my little girl, pitched in, and it was just a family effort, group project, and I told them they made my dreams come true. I'm so happy. If you have any questions about this, if you want to do a similar project or anything that I missed that you want to, know more about, be sure to get in the comments and ask me. And I'm very active on Instagram. You can also come over there and ask me some questions or DM me if you have any specific questions that you need answered. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the video and happy gardening. I cannot wait for this spring, summer planting out time. It's almost there. So see you then.